Marvel fans, Kevin Feige just gave us a ton of very interesting updates and confirmations on projects in Phase 5 and 6 leading to Avengers Secret Wars. So we're going to break down the news, and then using the power of being a gigantic nerd, we'll fill in the gaps of information with other leaks and reports and try to give you the best look possible at what this all actually means. I'm super excited for a lot of this different stuff, so let's get into it. Now, the very first thing that I want to mention in this video is Kevin Feige talking about the Disney Plus shows and about production slowing down. He makes mention of this idea of the zeitgeist, and this is really interesting because we've been reporting for months now that it really does seem like Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios are aware of a lot of the feedback that fans have, and they are making changes. And this was maybe the first time ever Kevin Feige on record admitted that these shows are not getting their proper time to shine. And he admits in this interview that they want to slow down the production and the release of these shows. And he says here in the interview, I do think one of the powerful aspects of being at Marvel Studios is having these films and shows hit the zeitgeist. It is harder to hit the zeitgeist when there's so much product out there and so much, air quotes, content, as they say, which is a word that I hate. But we want Marvel Studios and the MCU projects to really stand out and stand above. So people will see that as we get further into Phase 5 and Phase 6, the pace at which we're putting out the Disney Plus shows will change so that they can each get their time and chance to shine. And he's asked, so when you say pace will change, do you mean spacing them out or putting out fewer shows a year? And he said, both, I think. Now, he was also asked in the interview about how do you keep it fresh? Like, what do you do 31 movies in and 9 shows deep into this Marvel Cinematic Universe? And he's asked specifically, how do you appeal to the hardcore nerds that follow this thing while also making all the different bits and pieces of content really accessible? Now, he gave a really long-winded and weird answer here, talking about She-Hulk specifically as this thing that's sort of niche and might not be for everybody. And, you know, to me personally, I feel like Marvel is at this really weird impasse right now, and I think a lot of fans are having discussions about this. Many people believe that Disney Plus itself and the sort of edict from Disney to put out all of this, again, content, that word that he hates, is one of the things that really hurt Marvel Studios. And it's really interesting to see Kevin Feige talk about that and sort of explain that. I'm getting the feeling here with the language that he's using in this interview that Kevin Feige himself really does want to slow down the production. He doesn't want the MCU to become product and content. He really does want these things to be taken to another level. This is so interesting because we've recently heard Bob Iger talking about how there was something going on when he was not the CEO of Disney and the president of Disney, that the studios themselves were not in complete control of when and where their projects debuted, but that they are trying to restore that to them, right? Basically, Bob Iger's like, look, we're going to give control back to these creative studio heads, but they're also going to be held accountable for that. And just between that comment that Bob Iger made and the comments made here by Kevin Feige, they make me believe that this maybe was a Chapek thing. Chapek was on record talking about feeding the beast and how there's just so much desire from consumers when it comes to streaming. It really did seem like his strategy was just more. And I think one of the greatest questions that Marvel fans have about Phase 4 specifically is like, was this over influx of quantity over quality? Was that a Chapek problem? Did Bob Chapek essentially do that? And it's interesting because that is the narrative that you're seemingly getting from Bob Iger and from Kevin Feige. Now, another thing that's interesting here is he goes on to talk about Daredevil Born Again. And he goes on to talk about how he wants this to be truly episodic. And throughout this interview and another one that he did, but in both of these, Feige is talking about television and these sort of different vibes with television. Some that have this expansive story that really takes place over the totality of the show, and other shows that are built in episodic cliffhanger type experiences that just make you want to keep watching. And from what I gathered from this interview, it seems like Feige wants to do those cliffhangers and that must-watch appointment television with Daredevil Born Again. This is such an interesting thing for us as Marvel fans because I think there have been a few successful Disney Plus shows, but I think for the most part, they are just not doing it for the fan base or even very casual fans or just people that like good television. And so I'm really interested to see what's going to be happening with the Disney Plus shows from here. And it kind of seems like Daredevil Born Again may well be this first new attempt for Marvel Studios to do something different than what they've done with the Disney Plus shows so far. So I think this is generally good news, and it's exciting that they're making these changes. The only problem is it feels like there's a ton of other shows that were created with that other mindset. And there are shows still going to be released for Marvel Studios that seem to have come from that Bob Chapek pipeline where everything was product and content. So it's refreshing and positive to hear that things are changing. But the question for fans is, when will we actually see that change show up in the content? Now, next up, and I think this is really a big deal for Marvel fans, was the discussion of mutants and the X-Men. It's really interesting here because I think Feige sort of downplays a little bit of like Namor calling himself a mutant, Kamala Khan becoming a mutant. And Feige does speak to how important mutants are to the overall fabric of Marvel Comics, how this is a major pillar, arguably one of the biggest aspects of the entire publishing line. And it's something that he's personally been thinking about for a long, long time. And they have the plan solidified. They know what the plan is going to be for mutants, but they're not ready to talk about it. Now, we do have some inside information and just different leaks and scoops on what is going to be happening with the X-Men. And according to a lot of the insiders, what we're going to get is first a sort of revisiting of the Fox X-Men. This is obviously going to happen in Deadpool 3, but perhaps even in other projects as well. And it seems like you're going to get more of these mutants in the Secret Wars movie. Secret Wars itself is going to explore variants of the Fox X-Men characters to really bring back that Fox nostalgia, and also, I think from Feige's perspective, to have a proper goodbye to all of the different Fox X-Men films and characters that have come before. Because, of course, Kevin Feige himself started off producing the X-Men movies. But it kind of seems like what you're going to set up in the MCU 616 properly is a slow exploration of mutants, and through projects like Captain America New World Order and Thunderbolts, perhaps exploring mutants as super soldiers, and something like the Weapon Plus program or the Weapon X program likely to be spinning out of the Thunderbolts movie. And according to some other reports, the Eternal sequel is likely to deal with mutants as well, and the idea of mutants being connected to the Celestials and perhaps something more cosmic seems to be what Feige will be doing with the MCU X-Men. And so the way I see this playing out is sort of bringing in some of these interesting cosmic ideas via the Fox X-Men and the multiverse as we get towards Secret Wars. And then after Secret Wars, I think you'll see the MCU in its ground level stories and in its cosmic level stories with Eternals explore what mutants look like in our own multiverse, or rather universe, in 616. Either way, it's really cool that they actually have the plan figured out. And again, we're going to have to see how this goes down in the next couple of years. And with things like Deadpool 3 and X-Men 97, we're going to be getting some mutant stuff as Marvel fans. But I think we're all really excited to see what's actually going to happen with the 616 mutants, the X-Men, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, another big pillar for Marvel Comics is, of course, Spider-Man. And Feige did talk about how they have a plan for Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland. Their writers are about to start putting pens to paper now. And again, we actually have a lot of inside information via different leakers and scoopers like Alex Perez from the Cosmic Circus about what the actual plan is for the Tom Holland Spider-Man. And so it seems like they're getting the whole band back together, and they're going to be working on Spider-Man 4 for a 2024, maybe a 2025 release. And a lot of the rumors and reports are that the stories coming out of Daredevil Born Again, which sort of follow the Echo show are going to set up a major conflict for Spider-Man in Spider-Man 4. But it's going to be more ground level, as we think Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, is actually going to be named the mayor of New York City. And the major conflict in Spider-Man 4 is going to be Peter and some other ground level, street level allies, like maybe Daredevil himself, teaming up to try to stop Fisk and whatever's going on with Wilson Fisk in Spider-Man 4. And I really do find that fascinating because you're also going to be getting Thaddeus Ross as the president of the United States. And so this sort of political element with Marvel villains, I guess, becoming actual political leaders is such an interesting way to tell the stories in phases 5 and 6. And it's great that Feige's actually out there talking about it, confirming that this is actually happening. Again, a lot of the different reports, and even Tom Rothman over at Sony has been speaking about the 4th Spider-Man movie. And so it's really great for fans that we know that that is coming. And that's just awesome. I mean, between the X-Men and Spider-Man coming into projects in the next few years, that's a big, big win for Marvel fans. And another massive win for Marvel fans is the Fantastic Four. And Feige brought up the Fantastic Four at the end of this interview, talking about how they're going to be sharing a ton of stuff about this very soon, and how the Fantastic Four is going to become a major pillar of storytelling for Marvel moving forward in the same way that it has been for Marvel Comics. And so, dude, that is fan-freaking-tastic news. I mean, you've got the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, and the X-Men, absolute staples of Marvel Comics, being a massive part of the next few years leading into Secret Wars and for the Marvel Cinematic Universe after Secret Wars. Kevin Feige also admitted that you're going to get Harrison Ford as the president of the United States for Captain America 4, and the interesting dynamic between Ross and Sam Wilson will be at the core of that story. And he talks about how Bucky Barnes is going to be the de facto leader of the Thunderbolts. And we've been following those leaks and rumors and all those different reports. It sounds like those two movies are going to be super hype, and I'm really looking forward to the movies next year. Now, we also got a little update about Blade. He said that the production for that's going well, which we know is really not the case, but perhaps he's just indicating that whatever they're doing now with the rewrites is much, much better, and it's going to be shooting in the next 10 weeks. He also talked about the Marvels and how cool that movie's going to be, and how excited he is for people to see all of those characters together. So overall, guys, a lot of interesting info dropped from Kevin Feige. I think some of the most interesting stuff is how they're going to be changing things with the Disney Plus shows, and they really want them to shine. And all of this stuff, for my part, feels like Feige trying to communicate to us, the fans, that incredibly awesome stuff is still on the way. They're working really hard on some fan favorite things for Marvel Comics coming into the MCU. They have all of these plans, and they really want things to be good. But I also think it's important to just realize that this news is being given to us because Marvel is on shaky ground. And we have the second ever Rotten Tomatoes score for a Marvel movie in Quantumania, the movie that is supposed to kick off Phase 5. And I'm going to see that movie for myself very soon, and I'll explain to you guys how I feel about it. But regardless, this is a weird time for Marvel fans. As I've been saying to you guys for like the past 6 months, Marvel is aware of the problems. They are trying to fix the problems. The question becomes, how many shows and movies are we going to have to watch before we begin to feel some of these changes? I hope we don't have to watch many of them. I want to feel these changes very quickly, and I want to return to form for Marvel and get all of the fan base excited and hyped up about things that are happening. And I also think that you can kind of read between the lines here and expect to be told some really interesting things this year at San Diego Comic-Con and perhaps at other Disney conventions. I think Feige is ready to unload some of the new plans, maybe Fantastic Four, X-Men type stuff. And I think we might even learn more about Secret Wars, the Multiverse, and how all of that's coming together this year as well. Again, I'm super excited for a lot of this stuff, but I am concerned as to how long it's going to take before things kind of start getting really freaking awesome again. Let me know what you think about all these different reports. What are you most excited for coming out from Marvel Studios in the next couple of years? Smash a like on this video if you liked it. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. We give away dope, nerdy things to lucky subscribers each and every month, and it could be you. And if you want to watch more, why not check out this video I recently made about some crazy reports of an evil Iron Man from the 838 universe? It's mind-blowing.